Him. It's Podcast D. Alright guys, welcome back to a very special Hell in a Cell edition of the Bob Culture Podcast. Right now you are listening to a cover of Finn Balor's theme, Catch Your Breath, by my good friends It Lives and Breathes. Guys, check them out right now on iTunes, Spotify, and give them 5 stars. These guys are phenomenal. Guys, as always, thank you for letting me use your tunage. And right now I'm so stoked to interview my good friends kind of on this impromptu podcast night. Of course, I got to introduce the queen of the podcasting realm herself. A fellow Libra with a birthday coming up, I might add. It's good to be the queen, ladies and gentlemen, the queen of any. Queen, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you, fellow Libra?
I'm good. Then we got some birthdays coming up.
Yes, honey. Thank you for having me on today. I am so excited to talk about this card with you guys.
It's good to have you back, Queen. You know, I think we've been missing a little something in our predictions lately. I said I got to get the queen.
Aw, well, I'm happy to be here.
Always a pleasure. And of course, celebrating 10 years from the start of the popbreak.com, the editor-in-chief, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the good brother, Mr. Bill Bodkin. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. And from now on, just refer to me as Le Champion.
Yeah, with the bubbly. Yeah, I got you, man. I love it.
Champion, beautiful.
Hey, Bill, real quick, congrats on 10 years with the site. Everyone check out Bill. Just put out a solo podcast on the Breakcasts. You can check it out on the popbreak.com over in the podcast section. Really good stuff, man. Kind of a history of the site. A little bit of an emotional roller coaster on that one, man. But really, really great listen, man. And congrats again on 10 years.
Well, thank you, man. It's been a hell of a journey, but as I said on the podcast, I've said a number of times in public, there is no site without people like you who contribute for no money and do so with great passion and excitement and intellect. And this site would have died a long time ago if it was not for people like you, man. So thank you for 10 years.
Oh, thanks, man. And I'm glad to be a part of it. And it is my sworn duty to bug you for an interview request every single day. So just to keep you on your toes.
You literally do. And I'm working on it, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. No, it's great. It's always an honor. And guys, let's get right into it. Now, we're doing a little bit of an earlier podcast. I'm saying, we'll watch Smackdown and we'll do it Tuesday night like we usually do. But sure enough, Smackdown is moving to Fridays, as we all know, which Bill reminded me of, even though I just did a podcast about it. But regardless, so we're going to talk about the 3 already confirmed matches for Hell in a Cell. We'll talk about some hypothetical situations. But first, we always start with ladies first here on the Bob Culture Podcast. But we're actually going to go chronologically this time because I feel like there is going to be a fallout from SmackDown. It's not even SmackDown Live anymore. From SmackDown. So let's talk about kind of the elephant in the room here.
Sorry. Wait, it's not SmackDown Live on Fox? It's just SmackDown on Fox?
It's not SmackDown Live. It's just SmackDown on Fox.
Boom. Queen knows. This is why you're here, Queen.
Wow.
I got you.
That name is absolutely dynamite.
Oh, you cannot. There it is.
I was going to say, don't worry, there's still an Impact to be made on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
I am a father, and this is what my life has become, guys. Just puns on puns.
Oh, you're done here. All right. So, all right. Obviously, we got to talk about the other elephant in the room. Kofi Kingston taking on Brock Lesnar. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this match coming out of Friday. Will there be a different WWE champion, and will that obviously affect the match going into the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? Queen, we'll start with you. What do you think about this Kofi versus Brock match on Friday?
I don't hate it. I don't hate hate it. I feel like Brock Lesnar does his best with the smaller statured wrestlers. Now, that doesn't mean short. It just means smaller than him in mass, right? Mm-hmm. It just means that, when he matches up with, like, Braun Strowman, it's probably not the best thing that you're going to see. I think his matches with Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Finn Balor prove that. So I expect something fun, hard-hitting from Kofi, and, of course, Brock doing what Brock does. Is this the time? When we're moving to Fox, a totally new network, we're premiering on a Friday night, it's a whole new vibe. Are we going to change champions? I think that's the bigger question here. Mm-hmm. The match, I think, is going to be entertaining in some way, shape, or fashion. Even if you're not the biggest fan of Brock, Brock brings in a lot of name and a lot of attention. That's just how it does here in WWE with him. But I will say that the real issue for me was thinking, okay, well, we're doing all this stuff. Everything's going to be different. It's premiere night on a totally new network. Is Kofi's reign over? Is this really happening? It's been like a little bit of a short build. It hasn't been like weeks leading up to this conflict, but you have to really question here, I think, whether or not Kofi retains his historic run, and that's kind of where it's a little difficult for me to say, to be honest with you. I feel like they could easily pull the trigger with Brock, a big name. Fox would like that, I think, obviously for numbers reasons and ratings. But it's hard to say if this reign that Kofi has gotten and really defended rather well, I think his booking's been rather strong, and particularly as he was chasing the championship and then to Mania and then since, it's a little tough for me.
That's great, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Queen. If you did have to pick, who do you see walking out Friday night?
I think it might be Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Really, really well said. And, I met Kofi on Sunday, and again, thanks to Bill for the opportunity to cover that event. And I got to hold, it was awesome. I got to hold the actual WWE Championship. Kofi was letting everyone hold it. And to me, I instantly turned into a little kid, and you could see the smile on my face. It's like Christmas morning. But very happy that Kofi's had this run. They were replaying the match at WrestleMania on the big screens over at iPlay where the event was held. And just watching that match, I still got goosebumps. I was actually there. I believe, Queen, you were there. You were there as well, right?
For Mania? I wasn't at Mania.
You weren't at Mania.
Takeover.
Oh, you were at Takeover. Yeah. Oh, well, Takeovers. Oh, my gosh, so good. But anyway, but just watching that match still gave me goosebumps. Yeah. Even the crowd was reacting to it. So happy for Kofi. So happy I got to hold the title. That was huge for me. And I always thought some big name, big guy would come and take it, maybe an Undertaker, a Bray Wyatt, or a Fiend rather, Brock Lesnar, something like that. And sure enough, I think his time is up, and I thought he'd have it through SummerSlam. He'd had a great run. I'm so happy for him. And eventually, maybe after Survivor Series or so, we'll see the implosion of the New Day. I hate to say it. Bill, your thoughts?
Oh, Rob, it wouldn't be a podcast without you name dropping.
Yep.
So I'm going to name drop as well because I saw the Rock and Roll Express jam with Tanahashi on Sunday night.
Yes, boo, yes.
Yes.
96-year-old Ricky Morton doing her destroyer. Oh, the ECW arena is like the days of old. Anyway, I just wanted to make a Rock and Roll Express reference.
Oh, it's great.
To be honest with you, I think there's a lot of moving parts to this match right now. Because up until yesterday, we're recording this Tuesday, so obviously yesterday, Monday Night Raw, I was like, it's a slam dunk, Brock's going to win. And pretty much was a reason where I did not care about this match. I was like, there's no doubt it's going to be a well-wrestled match. And I will catch the clips or watch it on DVR. But to me, it's like, Brock's going to come and do Brock things, and he's going to win because that's what Fox wants. The interesting thing now is you had... Rey Mysterio and his son Walter get pummeled.
What?
Oh, well, no, because you don't know the joke how Dominic looks like Walter.
I kind of put it together just now. Wow, it just hit me. Wow, but go ahead. Wow.
And then a couple indie guys in England made fun of him, and then he decided to hit him 619, which I highly recommend you see Walter doing a 619.
I think I did, yeah.
It's quite awesome. Anyway, Dominic Mysterio... bump machine and a half. Love it.
Yeah.
And now makes me question, does Rey Mysterio and company now come out and cost Brock Lesnar the match? Or result in disqualification? So this way, because I'm split, because it is Brock's first match on free TV, because Brock only fights for the big money, because he's a smart businessman, and that's me being nice. And but do you end that first match in a disqualification or some? I don't think that happens. So it would be somehow Ray distracts Brock, or if Brock is on the ropes, the referee's distracted, 619, Kofi hits the Trouble in Paradise, and boom, he retains. And then you build it up where you have a feud, because I think smart money is putting Rey Mysterio on SmackDown. You want to put a big name there. He's going to be a great merch seller. He's already been profiled on Fox when they made the Nacho Libre references, because Mark Schlereth is an idiot. And so I'm like, okay, you want him there. He's probably going to be there, so that'll be a nice... I could see them going into Hell in a Cell, Brock Lesnar, Rey Mysterio, or maybe in SmackDown we have a little feud there, holding it over till Kofi Brock at Survivor Series. And that's where Brock is, because ultimately I think WrestleMania is going to be Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, because we haven't seen Roman touch the title or sniff the title picture in about a year. So I think like that's where you're going to have Roman on SmackDown as well, and that's where you're going to build the big feud. And that's the big money feud for WWE, in my opinion. So I think Kofi Kingston is going to win by crook. He wins.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Great Roman Reigns point. Kind of has other stuff going on. Didn't even do the math. It's like chess. You're thinking ahead. I like that, Bill. Really well said.
Yeah, and I think it's smart, because it was always Roman in the title picture, and now he's like, you know, it's been Buddy Murphy and Rowan and Daniel Bryan and Drew McIntyre. So he's been in that mid card, which I think is great, because I think everyone's now. We've moved past and I don't mean to be crass when I say this, but the sympathy, everyone was kind of like sympathetically behind Roman Reigns, but now people I think are finally really organically, naturally behind Roman Reigns, because people are finally understanding Roman Reigns is a good wrestler. He knows what he's doing in the ring. They're letting him be himself, and it doesn't feel like he's reading lines anymore. You know, it feels a little more natural, and I think people are really behind him, and I think we'll finally be all good. Well, there won't be people who won't, but most people will be all good with him challenging Brock.
Yeah, really good points, Bill, as always. And I'm just thinking about this SmackDown show coming up. I love that you're incorporating Ray into this storyline. You know, I was very excited to see Ray take on Rollins, kind of a little bit of a dream match. And hopefully we do see it down the line. I actually tweeted when Rollins said, I will give Ray a Universal Championship match in the future, and I retweeted it, and I put the timestamp and everything, and I was like, I hope this tweet ages very well, because I would love to see that match. But it's really cool how Ray is tied into that whole thing. I would love to see him show up on SmackDown, but again, I see Brock being the guy to take it from Kofi, and then you have the New Day kind of primed for a Survivor Series multiple faction thing. They could do a lot of cool things with that, and then eventually the implosion of the New Day. But you never know, guys. What else you guys expect to come from SmackDown? The list of legends goes on and on. It's a 2-hour show. I think this is going to be kind of featuring most of the legends. The Rock being announced. He's obviously going to go over time, which is fine with me. He's fantastic. We all know that. Do you guys expect any more matches coming out of this? Maybe a Bayley versus Charlotte setup for Hell in a Cell? What do you guys expect to come out of this? Queen, what do you think?
I would say, yeah. I'd say that's a safe bet for Charlotte versus Bayley at Hell in a Cell. You have to think about it. There's only 3 matches announced right now, so you have to kind of forecast from what we're seeing from Raw, and then, of course, what's listed right now for SmackDown on Friday, and just kind of say, all right, well, what are we going to do? And Charlotte versus Bayley makes sense to be a match that comes out of that. And I'm hoping the match that Kevin Owens has with Shane on Friday night just begins the writing off of the heel Shane character from television. I think that would just be great, just for my own personal enjoyment to have that be over. I'm sure I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the women are the ones that I could see right away from what's being forecasted for SmackDown on Friday. Charlotte versus Bayley is an easy put in for Hell in a Cell for me, as is probably like New Day Revival maybe again or something like that to have the tag titles on the program as well.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Queen. Really, really well said. And as far as the Shane and KO match, you know, I feel like their roles would be reversed. I said this on an earlier podcast. I'm not in love with the good guy Kevin Owens. You know, he's all right, and obviously no one's really big on heel Shane. I think the roles need to be reversed, but they did do that a couple years ago. In fact, I think it was a Hell in a Cell. I don't remember. It was something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was. That's when Sammy made his heel turn.
Yeah, so it kind of needs to end. Bill, anything you think intriguing that's going to come out of SmackDown leading into the pay-per-view?
Well, first off, don't ever blaspheme zoo enthusiast Kevin Owens. The man is a saint and a national treasure to Quebec. But no, I for some reason I see that. I'm surprised they're doing it on SmackDown. Like, I could see it going to the pay-per-view somehow. I don't think you're gonna. You have to have Corbin on there because he's the king now, and like something has to happen with him. Because it's just like you're going to really leave Corbin and Randy Orton and a lot of guys off the pay-per-view. I can't see that happening. I could see them rerunning Heavy Machinery and Ziggler and Rude again.
Yeah.
Or maybe, like, I almost think I can't call them whatever their name is, War Machine and getting a title shot. But I feel like there's going to be a little more build for that. So I think maybe we'll see it happening. Maybe we'll see it happen next month. But maybe we run back AJ and Cedric because those guys can't have a bad match together.
Agreed.
That'd be dope. I'd be into that.
I would almost love to see them announced for that, just to be a 2 out of 3 falls match, because like you don't have a lot of matches on the show. So hey, you want a match that's going to go a little long? People are into this feud. Want to have a 2 out of 3 falls match? Cedric gets 1 fall. You know, he gets the second fall. AJ gets the 3rd fall type deal, or maybe finally just put the belt on Cedric. He's pretty great.
Yeah. It's funny, when we met Cedric, here comes the name dropping again, right?
Here it comes, baby.
We met Cedric, and you know, someone had said to him, "Oh, get that 24/7 title or whatever," and he goes, "I don't want it." So it looks like ever since then, he's pretty much in that U.S. title, you know, chase right now. He's had some phenomenal matches, no pun intended, with AJ. The one being on the kickoff, I wasn't thrilled about.
Unintended, Rob. Unintended.
Yeah, well, you know how we do it here.
You knew it was coming.
You've seen my writing, yeah.
I think it's a shame that there's guys on there who I think you could like who got hot, and all of a sudden it's just because of this transition period might be left off, like a Buddy Murphy, Chad Gable. Like those dudes got really hot. And the team of Alexa and Nikki got really hot, and like people were really behind them. And now it's like, well, there's no one really for them to wrestle. You know, it's like unless you just want to throw a random match together.
Yeah, and lot of go ahead.
You know, I could see that happening, but like I'd rather something that's a little more, you know, natural. I mean, we haven't. Actually, I was thinking, I'm like, oh, the Iconics haven't really challenged them back, but I don't think we've seen them on TV for months.
No, they've been gone. I think, too, if we had something like the 2 out of 3 falls or whatever, it would keep the pay-per-view short match-wise, which I think is something they sorely need. The last couple of pay-per-views have been, while I will say they have been better paced than normal, I feel like a shorter pay-per-view is something they're due for and would be really helpful to them right now, especially with the amount of content they're dropping this week. It's a lot. So I feel like a nice, short, but poignant pay-per-view would do them really well. And the matches that they have on this card that are at least announced, they have potential to be great. So I don't feel like they need to, I don't want to say muddy the waters, because that's not really what I mean, because there's a lot of talent that I think could have great matches, but I don't think they want to make things more complicated than it needs to be.
Hey, maybe put the Cruiserweight title on the main show for once.
Yeah. That'd be dope. I'd be into that too.
It's
I don't know if there is a number 1 contender right now.
There is. Leo Rush became the number 1 contender. Yeah. Now that was on NXT.
They're not putting that on the main. They're not putting that on the main show. Never mind.
Versus Gulak. Well, actually, great segue, Bill, because I was going to go to that. Obviously, it looks like the Cruiserweight title's kind of making a move to NXT in sort of a way. Obviously, I've heard 205 Live is going to Friday nights as well. But that could be, I mean, we only have 3 matches for Hell in a Cell. That could be on the card. The Cruiserweight title has been defended, obviously, on there. We could have Rush versus Gulak. You don't think that's going to happen, Bill?
Just because I was joking. I was being facetious just because
okay.
Leo Rush isn't the most beloved guy in the world. Although he did him and Oni, he tore it up.
Yeah.
They had a good match. He is the number one contender, so I guess he's done his penance. But again, I mean, I think it'd also be smart to like, hey, you've got a show on Wednesday. Put a featured match from NXT on there. They're not going to do it, but like that would be kind of cool. It's like, hey, we have this great show on Wednesday. Here's an example of something great you're going to get.
Wouldn't it be great if Roddy Strong could defend the title or do something like that at Hell in a Cell? Because he's not doing it on Wednesday.
I was just thinking of Matt Riddle because that's my bro. So I was just like,
well, yeah, but he's worked with Adam Cole. But, I mean, he could work again. You know, you never know.
Bro.
We just don't wear shirts, so
I can't deal with the bro. It drives me nuts.
Oh, well. Anyway, that's an interesting point. And real quick before we get into the actual Hell in a Cell predictions, I have to say, kind of to your point, you know, we want to see these NXT guys kind of get mixed into the main pay-per-views. Not to take away from Takeover, which is always phenomenal. But we have Survivor Series coming up. I think it would be so cool to intermix we have 3 official brands now. Let's have an AJ Styles versus a Kofi versus a Gargano. Like, let's get creative instead of the rah-rah. Let's storm each other's shows, red versus blue, throw all our storylines out the window thing they do every year. Like, let's make Survivor Series really fun.
Yeah, but I agree. But they want to sell tickets for TakeOver. So they're not going to, like, TakeOver, like, the Survivor Series TakeOver is usually War Games.
Yes.
So I can't see them doing that because they're like, okay, we want to sell this out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't think that would be taking revenue away from NXT as opposed to, like, but yeah, I think it would be really cool. And I think, like, there should be a pay-per-view where that happens, but for Survivor Series, that's War Games money, and that is a big house for them, and I don't think they're gonna want to touch that money.
Yeah, and War Games is always great, so you get no complaints from me, and TakeOver is always great, so it's win-win for sure. All right, guys, I said this was going to be an Hell in a Cell predictions podcast, so let's get to it. We have 3 official matches, and we're going to start with the boss, Sasha Banks, versus the man, Becky Lynch, in a Hell in a Cell match. We've seen Sasha in a Hell in a Cell before, a really cool match with Charlotte Flair. Do you think this is the time that Becky loses the belt? We'll throw it to Bill first on this one.
I wish you hadn't thrown it to Bill first. I think it's the Sasha return has been super weird to me because, like, I remember she came back and I was like, whoa, she's back. I guess all her AEW tweets that got deleted don't mean anything. So it was like, it was all a work. It's great. She's back. And then it was like, she lost a ton. And I'm like, wow, she's really losing a lot. But she's still in this match with Becky. So it's been a very weird kind of thing with Sasha. So I think you kind of have to put the belt on her. I think Becky's run has kind of been like, she's almost transcended the title at this point. Because she's now on ESPN, she's a big face on Fox, the video game cover. So I don't know if she needs the belt right now, whereas I think Sasha, because that'll be a complete dud to me. If Sasha has this hot return, loses a bunch, and then loses in Hell in a Cell, it's like, okay, well then where do you go from here? For Sasha Banks, you've kind of just hamstrung one of your top talents, unless you move her to SmackDown and she wins there. But again, she's already lost. No, she won. Did she win or lose in that first Hell in a Cell?
I don't recall. Versus Charlotte, maybe lost. I don't remember.
I want to say she lost.
I want to say she lost too, but
I don't know for you guys. So it's like
I remember.
Hell in a Cell too. Yeah, Charlotte won.
Oh.
So I think she takes it here because I think you need to elevate Sasha even more because I feel like her red hotness kind of cooled out quick because of the way they booked her. I think she's a great heel. I love her character and where they're taking her. And putting the belt on her only makes her that much more and elevates her that much more. And Becky is always great in the chase. So that's really cool. Of course, we don't know if Becky's going to get... I mean, I would think Becky's going to get moved over to SmackDown. Because, you know, it's on the major network. She's another person who's been at the forefront of the marketing. And I still think that's where Ronda's going to go. So, and I think they're going to run back Ronda and Becky at WrestleMania. So I think Sasha's going to take it. I don't know if it's without any help or not, but that's going to be, I think that is going to be one hell of a brutal, in a good way, match, man. They're going to knock the living hell out of each other.
I love it. Queen, so interested in your thoughts on this one.
I think I actually agree. So for Sasha, the way that she came back was so hot. Everything about the reveal, the new hair, the new gear, the vibe, the entire little dark girl that came out, I was like, yes, great, let's go. And then they kind of booked her like a chump, and I don't like that. Why are you going to bring her back to have her lose like that? That makes no sense for what you're trying to say and make a statement of. She whipped the crap out of Becky with that chair. I mean, hello. So what are you doing? It's not working out. So I feel like she needs the belt. Becky doesn't. I totally agree with that, Bill. And I think that Becky's being drafted to Fox. So it makes more sense to me to put the belt on Sasha, not only for her character and not only to build that women's division on Raw, but because I think Becky's going to go to Fox. She's been on a lot of the media. She's been on a lot of the commercials, the football ones where they're doing like the little football thing, talking about the man, and she's like, I'm right here. That's a lot of things and little breadcrumbs to me that say, okay, she's probably going to go to Smackdown, and which would put her in a program with Bayley, which hasn't really been done a lot, I would say, or at least not in a major way. And then we can get kind of Sasha and maybe Charlotte going to Raw to do their thing, and that could be an interesting dynamic. I'm not sure if that's really how it's going to shake out, but I think the best thing for Sasha and the best thing for Becky is to split them and give Sasha the Raw Women's title. And I agree, this match is going to be crazy.
You guys are so good. I love everything that you guys are saying. I'm going to go for the trifecta. I got to go with Sasha as well. I had said a couple podcasts ago that first bout is going to end in some sort of disqualification. I think the second time around, Sasha's going to get that belt. And you guys kind of convinced me even more so when you're saying we think Becky's going to SmackDown, going to the blue brand. You're not going to be carrying that Raw title. So I got to go for the trifecta. I think the boss is back and the boss is going to win for sure.
But knowing WWE, Becky will win, the title be held in abeyance. There'll be like a rando beat the clock challenge, and Dana Brooke will win it.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I hope so. But I mean, it's WWE's really gotta they have a way of being like, wow, that's so logical, and they're like, oh, pal, that's not happening, you dumbass. So I hope it plays out that way because, like I said. But we both said Becky doesn't really need the belt at the moment because her debut on SmackDown officially will be that she's the big free agent signing. She's the face of WWE right now. Yeah,
and the game drops, October 22nd or something like that? So I'm wondering if that would come into play as well. I'm very excited for it, by the way. But
me too.
Oh, yeah, you know the deal, Queen. It's going to be great. And the Fiend, the Fiend being the DLC or the bonus content rather when you order it, come on, that sold the game for me right there.
Rob's gonna get revenge for Kane.
Yeah, yes, I love Kane. Yeah, I popped real hard for Kane when he was walking around with Truth, and I'm like, you know what? Let him win that 24/7 championship so we can add that to the resume. And then he came out at the end, almost did the fire pyro. Oh, and guys, by the way, I digress. I'm all over the place here. Great to see Kane. Can we talk about the pyro? The only thing that I literally ranted about on this show, it's back. What did you guys think about the pyro being back?
Oh, it feels good. It feels like old school. Just a tad, just a little something from the past. And I'm like, oh, I love me some pyro. Not too much. Can't be overdone, but just enough. I loved it.
Loved it, Bill.
I don't really care about pyro, honestly. It's cool. I was more impressed with the Raw set. I thought that Raw set was awesome. The backlighting, when Ray with all the masks flashing, all his different. It was great. Sasha's blue back. I thought that was all great. The pyro. I know so many people love pyro. I'm just like, that's cool, but I didn't miss the pyro.
Yeah, see,
Oh
so
man, I did.
Yeah, I did.
So
like I said, it's the only thing like I really like. We keep it pretty positive here. It's the only thing I really like ranted about because some of the entrance themes and Queen, you know this. You did a lot on the entrance themes. Really good episodes of your show.
thank you.
Yeah. Oh no, thank you. It's really great. But the entrances have like cues, for the pyro, like Styles. It has that like big build when the fireworks goes off. Alexa Bliss, things like that. Like you notice it in the music. And when the show kicked off yesterday. And it almost had those like similar two rockets shoot up like it kind of used to in the old Raw days. And then the display being very similar, like you said, Queen, kind of reminded you of that old school Raw a little bit. The crowd, the energy in the crowd was just so much better from the beginning of the show. And I think that just got everyone on their feet and excited. And like you said, it reminded you old times. So I popped for it.
Me too. I'm so easily pleased when it comes to like pretty things and shiny and look, it's exploding. I'm very happy with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel you on that. Guys, let's talk about the next match announced. We have Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan in a very interesting team-up versus, them as the Bludgeon Brothers, obviously part of the Wyatt family. We got Luke Harper back and Eric Rowan. I'm going to say because it just keep it short and sweet because of the return of Luke Harper, I think somehow you have Rowan and Harper going over in this one, and you have the strange kind of bedfellows like not work together so well, and Reigns and D-Bry actually take the loss. Queen, what do you think on this one?
It's tough to say. Roman doesn't lose on pay-per-views very often, so it's hard for me to be like, he'll probably lose. Even though sometimes I really like him to lose. It's nice because it gives you that little bit of something that he can work towards and attain, which is why I've liked the fact that he hasn't been near a title like we were talking about before. I love that. It makes me miss him in the title picture. To be honest with you, I really don't care about this match at all. This is kind of like a Roman versus Rowan from the last pay-per-view. I don't care. It means nothing to me. So for this, I'm like, oh, cool, look, Harper's back. Like, that's dope. But I could see him coming back and them trying to do something with them too. I'm just hoping they don't be called the Bludgeon Brothers again if they're going to stay as a tag team. Hope they figure that out. I don't really know. This was a little tough to pick too because, like I said, it doesn't really do anything for me. But would they make Luke Harper and Rowan go over Roman and Daniel Bryan? It's possible. But I think because of I'm thinking there's two different title changes, so I don't know. They might want one for the good guys, so to speak. So they might want to have Roman and Daniel Bryan win.
Okay, fair enough. Bill, what do you got?
This feels like a Smackdown main event, or like a house show main event. This does not feel like a pay-per-view quality match. Luke Harper already trying to get himself fired again.
Really?
By just talking shit. Yeah, they were talking about all the NXT shirts that were made, and he basically is like, I've never had one. WWE stole the ideas for the Wyatt family from me. Tommaso Ciampa could swear on Twitter, but I get fined for saying this. I don't give a shit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, you really don't want to be there.
Wow.
Not at all.
Yeah. My friend is always like, man, I can't wait for his independent gimmick where he's like a Luke Harper and he's like a fisherman. So some people... I know. I can't even take credit for that one. It's like my buddy.
So good. So good.
Comes out the big slicker. It's like some people have posited like, oh, this is definitely built to the point of like, okay, this is where Daniel Bryan's going to turn on Roman, right? Like this has to be the weak turns on Roman because this good guy Daniel Bryan is like that good guy Tom Batanga thing. It's all chicanery. It's all Schadenfreude. It's all bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's like, but we also thought Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross were going to break up.
Yep.
And they're basically wrong. They're basically not even Team Hell No. They're just like best friends. Like that's all they are. And it's like, I don't know. I could see Roman and Daniel Bryan going over, but I could easily see Daniel Bryan just walking out or something happening, and they walk out and they turn on each other. I could also easily see Daniel Bryan getting drafted to Raw, and this storyline never resolves itself. Like, I also don't care about this story at all. So it's really hard for me to get really intellectually invested in it. So I'm just going to go Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can't argue with that. You guys are actually kind of swaying me to go the other way. It's hard for me to pick. You know, we always say here that Daniel Bryan is kind of the guy that takes the pin a lot. Even when he was WWE champion and not in title matches, he took the pin a lot, obviously leading to big time moves for guys like Mustafa Ali, Buddy Murphy getting the pin on Daniel Bryan recently. So I could see him, letting Harper pin him or, Eric Rowan pin him storyline wise.
If I'm Harper, I'm like, oh, please let Daniel Bryan pin me because look at the fate of those guys. I'm off TV again.
Yeah, there you go. You have a great point. Very, very interesting. All right, well, here's a match that I'm sure you guys have some interesting theories, and I'll preface it with this. Obviously, we're talking about the Universal Championship match with Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, of course, Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse. The WWE.com or WWE on Twitter put up a poll that said, who do you think is going to win win the match? And I think one of the options was a disqualification. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me because Hell in a Cell, I believe, does not have any sort of DQ or counter. No. That's the whole point. So I screenshotted it so you guys don't think I'm crazy. And a lot of the comments were, social media interns don't know the rules for Hell in a Cell, yada, yada, yada. I'm not trying to bash anyone here, but in my mind, I think it's very blatant that there is a very no contesty option, third option here. So if you guys have any fun theories or anything like that, now's the time. We'll start with Queen.
I don't have any fun theories.
Okay.
I think I'm just like, if you don't put this belt on this Fiend, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? This build, this Firefly Funhouse program, the entire attacking, the hurt heel, the mind games, the insanity, the entire commitment to the Fiend, like having him pop up during the middle of football, just on a random commercial.
Yes.
This is silliness if you don't put the belt on him, right? Personally, I would have loved it to take a little bit longer, but that's neither here nor there because we are here now. And I feel like if you do not put this belt on this character right now, you're doing a disservice to the character itself. There's no way it should be done, see you later, Fiend is the new champion, and go run with that for a very long time. I just think it's stupid to keep it on annoying. Well, I don't even know if he's baby face. Suck up brown-nosing Seth Rollins. I'm over it. It's got to go.
He is worse than Mick Foley with that cheap pop, man.
He's so bad. It's so bad. The thing that drove me the most crazy is when Stone Cold was on Raw, and he's like, can I do the what chant? No, you cannot. You're not Stone Cold. Be quiet. He just was so... I just can't handle him, and he says things... It's just like, forget it, dude. And there's no way that he should beat The Fiend at this point, in my opinion. Trying to keep it positive for you, Bob, but I just can't do it because he drives me that crazy.
But you know what, Queen? You also keep it very real, and that's why you're here. And also, I don't know if you're holding a microphone right now, but you better drop it because that was you telling it like it is.
There it is, honey. Dropped.
Bill, what do you got for me?
Well, if there's going to be any wacky hijinks, it would be from Braun Strowman.
Ah.
That's the only thing I could see happening because if they're going to do something like that, because Braun, it was like, remember how it was kind of weird how it was like the Fiend, that Braun's like, nope, it's me, I'm the guy, and they had that match, and I just feel like I could see him running into the cell, ripping the cage door open, doing some Braun thing like that, and attacking the Fiend, and they're left laying, and maybe he cost Seth the bell. I don't know. I could see some schmaz with him coming in and doing that. But here's the problem. Going off of Queen's point, and I think I've said this on this podcast before, what is Seth Rollins? Why should we care, literally have an emotional investment in Seth Rollins? We have been given zero reasons. He is, because remember in the Shield, he was the architect. So he was the guy with the moves and the flips and the spots, but he was the smart guy. He was the quarterback for Roman, who was who was the heater, and Dean, who was the lunatic. And then he was the corporate champion, basically, and everyone. So you had a character there that you could hate, and then he was back. So he was the rebuild, redesign. He had that story. Now he's the champion. Now he's just like, meh, I sound like the Penguin. Meh. You know, it's just like he's got an annoying voice. He's got a bland personality. He just tries to kiss ass, and it just feels like he's such a square peg in a round hole. And people, when Braun came out, he got a bigger reaction, and people wanted to see him win. People are, and this isn't just like Bill Bodkin saying this. I listen to a lot of podcasts like Busted Open on Sirius XM. They're like, people love The Fiend. They don't love Seth Rollins. They are going to be cheering the shit out of The Fiend and booing Seth Rollins. Because Seth Rollins is just a guy who does moves. I don't care that he's afraid of the Fiend. He looks like a coward, and he doesn't have the emotion in his voice to be like, I'm scared. Like, I'm legit scared. Like, Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about the Fiend. Well, first I want to say that what Brock Lesnar did to Dominic was bad. Gee, why don't you read that off a cue card? It's like, that's how it seemed. Like, he was so cardboard. Like, there's other people, like, who could do a better job than that. And Seth Rollins is really good in the ring. So I'm not knocking him for that. But people are going to want to see him lose. And, Queen, to your point, it's that same argument I made about Bray Wyatt 5 years ago. When he was red hot, they should have put that belt on him, but they never did. And they just were like they've done with Braun Strowman, The Big Show, Samoa Joe, Dolph Ziggler, Natalya, and just run them up to challenge, have them lose, run them up, have them lose, and then they lose their credibility. That's why he had to go away for so long, because it was just like he had no credibility. So I don't have faith that WWE, despite all this push, which is not as much as Bray Wyatt's initial push, but they put a lot of time and investment in Bray Wyatt and never pulled the trigger. It would be the dumbest thing in the world if they didn't pull the trigger. But I could see them be like, well, Braun will interfere, and then it'll be like Braun, the Fiend, and Seth. And then Braun takes the pin because Seth won't, so Seth doesn't have to or something like that. And then it's this chase of the Seth and the Fiend. And I think if you don't put it on him that night, like Queen was saying, like, you are missing a prime opportunity to do something really creative and really different with a character that might be the most creative thing WWE has done in over a decade.
Tell us how you really feel, Bill. If you had to pick just like a straight up prediction, no funny business, you see obviously the Fiend walking out with the Universal Championship at the end of the night?
Yeah, it's a tepid yeah.
You're scared it might keep it on Rollins.
I just have a feeling Seth Rollins is going to walk out of there with that title again.
Very, very interesting stuff. And I will say this, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Bray did hold the WWE Championship for a very short time. Am I correct on that? It was like an Elimination Chamber?
Oh, yeah.
He did have the title. I could be wrong. I'll look back into that. But anyway, I like what you're saying, Bill, as far as the Braun Strowman factor. I did not think of that. I was going to go a different direction, but it's always interesting to see how they rip that cage door off. This allows for the climbing of the cage, yada, yada, crazy spots. Seth Rollins would be a guy to do something like that. This is something where I see Bray Wyatt maybe having little videos throughout the night, something crazy. Now, let's not forget, he kind of sent Finn Balor away. Finn Balor did not approach him as the Demon. If you guys remember, I opened the show with Finn Balor's theme. This may be an appropriate time for Finn Balor or the Demon to make an appearance. This is the kind of thing where someone might pop out from under the ring or through the ring. Lights go out. Someone shows up. I think this match is dripping with something like that. Some sort of no contest. But long story short, I do not see the Fiend taking a pin or submitting in this kind of match. There's no way that's happening. if I had to pick, I would say, the Fiend is hot right now. Bray Wyatt's put in the time. We give WWE so much credit for this storyline. I got to give a lot of the credit to Bray on his creativity. There's little things in the Firefly Funhouse that you notice that reference things, his tweets, things like that. I got to go with the Fiend on this one, hands down.
Well, it'll be dripping with something if he doesn't win, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I won't be watching anymore, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
It's going to really be making me upset because I'm with you, Bill. Like, when they did not do this 5 years ago, and I was like, oh, come on. It's right here for you. It's right here. And that's exactly why he was gone for so long. And look what he came back with. I don't know why they wouldn't do it. And if you're not going to do it because of Seth Rollins, I think you're making a mistake. I really, really do.
So, Rob, to your point, Bray Wyatt did hold the belt in 2017. He won an Elimination Chamber match where he defeated AJ Cena, Styles, Miz, Ambrose, and Corbin. And I think he pinned Corbin, I want to say, to win it. And then he had a 49-day run. And he lost it to Randy Orton in the match we basically remember for the superimposition, the superimposed pictures of like cockroaches on the ring.
Yes.
That match was terrible. But you know what? The Fiend, it reminds me of Bray Wyatt. It reminds me of Braun Strowman. I mean, that dude was red hot 2 years ago, and they found every way not to put the title on him. And so that's why I'm just so like, man, this is special. Put the belt on him. And if they don't, man, it's just like. And after some of the angles I saw on Raw this week, and I'm like, man, you guys are really just making it easy for me to tune into other things right now.
Yeah, for sure.
4 hours of Wednesday wrestling would be way better than watching Monday Night Raw if it's a Fiend doesn't have the title and we're running with two wives cheating on their spouses angles.
Oh, Vomit City.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, Bob, that you said, too, that I really liked is about Finn Balor. I don't know if this is the moment for him to come back, but I think if Bray has the title and he's just running roughshod through the entire roster, he's feeling great. I think that might be the time for the Demon to appear. Nice. I think it needs a little bit of build, though, because I would like to have Bray as the Fiend have that credibility and have that backing behind the belt itself. That's my problem with the Universal title. Mm-hmm. It's not had many people who've had it, and the people who've had it, they've had repeats, and I just feel like it's time for a fresh champion with a good, dominant reign. They need to start respecting and giving the accolades to that belt like they do their WWE Championship, if I'm to believe that this is on the same level.
Yeah, like you said, the Kofi run earlier. Mm-hmm. They've done everyone's, a lot of people criticize it, and I look at them and I'm like, I don't know what television show you're watching. His run has been great, and they've built him as a strong champion, and people are more behind him, and he's put on excellent matches. So to have someone with a longer title run, I mean, how many times has the Universal Championship changed hands this year? It's just been ping pong between Brock and Seth a few times. It's change the record, and you could get a really good psychological build down the road with the Fiend, the red lights flash, just like how the Fiend did to Finn with the lights flashing, and you just hear the bass line, the dun dun dun, and the lights flicker, and you just see a picture of the Demon, and he's like, "I'm coming for you," boom, and then a Royal Rumble, that's the match, you know what I mean? Or something, it gives you goosebumps. You're like, oh, that's cool, that's something different. Him showing up in the cell, I could see it, but, again, it's just Finn Balor's another guy who is, super hot, and then they keep yo-yoing him back and forth of, he's super hot one day, and then he's loses 6 weeks in a row. So, the credibility of who the next guy is going to be very tough.
Really well said, both you guys. Queen, I like what you said about the belt. Bill, I like what you're saying about Finn. Also, another route for Finn, rumors of him joining up with the OC. Lots of possibilities here. This is the week to pull the trigger, people. Bring what you have to the table right now. And guys, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a ton of fun, really fun podcast. Before we sign off here, as a personal favor here, Bill, I'm going to give you a little treat. I know you have a lot to say about this week in wrestling. So real quick, whatever you're feeling, AEW, Impact, any thoughts on this coming week, man?
Sure. This is, I'm going to speak in generalities, this is the greatest timeline to be a wrestling fan.
Nice.
Like, you literally have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you have independent wrestling TV, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Saturday every week, and this Sunday. You could have 7 days worth of wrestling, and that is so awesome. It's basically like if this was like the territory days again, but everyone was on TV and with streaming services back in the 80s. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you have these groups that have great rosters, and there's going to be so much happening. Just enjoy all of it, because all of it's going to be really great, except for Lana and Bobby Lashley making out, which I know you're a super positive guy, Bob. That was terrible.
Dude, I felt for Rusev. I felt for him, man. I don't care if it's a storyline, man. That's not okay.
That's just hot garbage. But, I am excited. Obviously, my big excitement for the week is AEW. I've been on board with AEW. I want to see them do really well, because if they do really well, that means other companies are going to do really well. But I think the big thing, since we're talking WWE right now, is this reminds me when I was a kid, and I discovered WWE 30 years ago on Fox. WWF Superstars. I am excited for the 7-year-old boy or girl who's going to discover WWE for the first time because it's on Fox. And then they're going to go look on TV, and they're going to be like, oh, WWE is also in USA twice a week. Oh, and then there's this company AEW, and they've got a wrestling dinosaur. And then oh, there's this, and there's this. And I am lucky to be the father of a 4-year-old girl, and I have 2 nieces, and one of them loves women's wrestling. So every time she sees more women's wrestling out there, she gravitates towards it. She's really into it, which gets my kid into it, which makes me feel really good. So this is a great time for young kids to discover wrestling. Or I've had a lot of people who were wrestling fans back in the day who were like, I just saw that messaged me, they saw Cody versus Dustin at Double or Nothing, and now they're back into wrestling for the first time, and since the Attitude Era, so this is an awesome time to be a wrestling fan. In 1 month, I saw AAA in New York City and New Japan in Philly. That's crazy. So it's like, this is a wild time to be a wrestling fan. Enjoy all of it, and just go into it with a positive mind, man, because wrestling is fun. So let's just have fun with it.
Love it, Bill. Really well said. Queen, any thoughts? And what will you be watching live Wednesday night, and what will you be DVRing?
Oh, so many thoughts. I say it all the time, and I agree. What a time to be a fan, dude. Can you imagine when you think about, 15 years ago, it's 2004, what kind of options did you have? And now here we are, 2019, everything's at your fingertips. Anything and everything that you ever want is there. And that's wild. In the best way possible. For our fandom and for people who just love pro wrestling, boy, you got your pick, honey. Just enjoy it. And for me, I've been lucky enough. I've been at WWE pay-per-views this year, takeovers this year. I've got to see New Japan twice. I just was there in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, honey. It was dope. I loved it. It's so... And I was all out. I mean, it's just
man,
wild.
Awesome.
It was so awesome. And for me, no contest, AEW live tomorrow night. I will not be watching anything else. I'm not dual screening, none of that. I'm going to devote all my attention to AEW. I'll be DVRing NXT to watch the next day. That's how I normally watch NXT anyway, so nothing's really going to change for me in that regard. I don't think, unless something crazy happens with AEW. But to be honest, I'm just so excited for something new and fresh. Yeah. Oh man, that's going to have my attention. And I'll be interested to see. I'm going to give everything a shot, right? As everything's shaking out, I'm going to give it a few weeks, see how I feel. But AEW for me is where my focus is going to be at.
Likewise. Rob knows that. He's like, God damn it, Bill, just watch NXT with me.
No, it's all good. I love it. Like we always say here, the real winners, the fans, guys, and I love your input. Let's get a little shameless promo out of the way, and then we'll get out of here. Queen, tell us everywhere we can follow you and tune into Queen's Court.
Awesome. Okay, well, some changes this week, but what isn't changed is my Twitter, which is @theQueenofNE. My Instagram is @XTheQueenofNE. My show, Queen's Court, is now on my own feed on Podbean, so you can find me there, and you can also find me on YouTube, The Queen of NE, Queen's Court. Search it. It will be there. All the links, of course, are on my Twitter. And I co-host DYWTSB every single Friday with Pops and Mort, and we also do the Queen and Pops Experience every single Sunday, where we do watch-alongs of any and everything from WWE to the Indies to New Japan and all sorts of fun stuff, and GCW too, which is great. So yeah, we have a lot.
So wished I was there last night, man.
Oh, me too. But yeah, so you can find me there, and if you would give a listen to my show, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And vote for Queen on hashtag the Wrestling Podcast Awards. I voted for you for Best Newcomer. Queen, I mean, just what a year it's been. No, seriously, what a year it's been for you. Just had Alicia Atude on, I believe. What a great interview that was. Two queens right there.
Thank you. Yeah, she's dope.
Oh, it was awesome. And lots more to come, I'm sure. Bill, tell everyone where they can follow us on the Pop Break and everything that's going on with the site right now.
If you just want to see me tweet nonsense about wrestling, you can follow me at Bodkin Rights. You don't have to, that's fine. But what I would love for you to do, check out thepopbreak.com. Like Rob said, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. Sunday was our 10-year anniversary, and then we're celebrating for the rest of the year. Just put up an interview on Monday with the bad boy Joey Janela.
Yes.
So check that out. Had a lot of fun. He told people to eat his shorts at one point, which I know popped Rob. It was a cool interview. I was very happy to be doing that. I'll be covering AEW's show tomorrow. I'm sure my wife is going to try and finagle the Masked Singer in there somehow. I'm going to have to fight on that one. But check us out on Twitter at popbreak.com, all spelled out. Check us out /popbreak.com on Facebook. And we just came off the See Here Now Music Festival in Asbury Park. So check out The Pop Break on Instagram, where we have everyone from Dave Matthews and Lumineers to B-52s and Dispatch, which is super cool. So yeah, thank you so much. And of course, you can always check out what Rob's writing, because I'm sure he's covering NXT for me this week. Rob, I need you to cover NXT for me this week.
Oh, yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, I dibsed it a long time ago. I'm so excited. You know, I'll be watching NXT. I'll be DVRing AEW, and I'm excited to see what everybody thinks. And, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This was a ton of fun. And to all the wrestling companies and all the organizations out there coming on every day this week, whatever's going on, like Ric Flair says, be at your best. All right, guys, thanks so much. We're out. Peace. All right, guys.